We are live. How's it going, Mets fans? It's your boy Wardy, and we're back at it with our latest post-game segment tonight, as we'll be breaking down the key takeaways from the Metropolitans' 3-1 victory over the St. Louis Cardinals. This is going to be my first attempt, or at least second attempt so far this spring, on trying to multi-stream this on both YouTube and Twitter. So to everyone that watches this, please make sure to let me know, especially for my Twitter viewers, if it's coming through or not. Greatly appreciated. This is something that I will be attempting to do more throughout the regular season. Just want to toy with it, especially after a spring game where, again, there isn't too much to break down, but still some fun key takeaways. Headlined by Manaea having himself another fine outing this spring, now at a 3.09 spring ERA for those that matter about the statistics. Jeff McHitz making his spring debut. Batty lifting and carrying a ball. I love to see it. Bullpen looks great. Awesome bullpen battle going on, and then some. So to everyone, again, first chiming in live on a replay, happy to have you all in here. Make sure to smash the like and subscribe button for your boy, as it is the easiest, best way to support the channel. Hope everyone is having a fantastic evening as well. Excited to get into this discussion here, because like I said, there were some good takeaways to get into from tonight's victory for the Metropolitans. And you know how I feel when it comes to spring games, guys. It doesn't matter so much if the Mets win or lose, but more so in exactly what led to that point, right? What is the status of the rotation battle, right? Tyler McGill, Jose Buto, for example. What is the status in the bullpen battle? Got guys like Yohan Ramirez and others competing. Yohan Ramirez with another fine outing for the Metropolitans that we're about to get into. And also the same thing can be said when looking at, the DH battle to an extent. We know Mark Vientos as of now is going to be the Mets starting DH to begin the season, but we still want to see how he does. Of course, JD Martinez is still out there on the market, so of course fans were naturally going to put 2 and 2 together until something changes on that front. Batty, we want to see how he's looking, and Batty's quietly been having a solid spring since the beginning of March especially. He's been over 300 hitter. Again, his ability to pull and lift the ball today for a home run was fantastic. That we'll get into. And as always, shout out to our amazing sponsor, BetUS, but more on a little bit later into the show. I see my man Jay, how you doing? Absolute beauty. Dave, my great friend, awesome member, how you doing? Laser, Jocelyn, how are you? Let's see, Riley, Frankie, John, G, to everyone first chiming in live on a replay. Happy to have you all in here. Just bear with me as I get my bearings straight and make sure that everything is properly set up on my end. So give me 1 second, everybody. Let's see. Okay, so we are live on Twitter. Let's go. Let me just edit something real quick, or actually I'll just pin it right now. And here we go. 1 second, everybody. Okay, now let's get started, everybody. Hope you guys are doing well. Brennan, how you doing? Steve, Laser, appreciate all you guys. Oh, there I go. I lost focus in the camera. Bear with me 1 second. You might get some Wardy ASMR here for a minute until we can get this thing straight. Also, in case you guys didn't check out, I was on Bleacher Report app earlier today, breaking down my initial reaction and really going through the signing of Blake Snell to the San Francisco Giants of that 2-year, $62 million deal with an opt-out after the first year. Huge win for the Giants and huge loss for Scott Boras and Blake Snell there. I explained a bit as to why that is and got into the remaining free agents, including guys the Mets have been connected to a degree, whether it's Jordan Montgomery or, of course, to a higher magnitude there in JD Martinez. But now, as we start to break down the ball game, folks, I'm sorry. Can we please take a moment to talk about Manaea? What a awesome starting pitcher he has been so far this spring for the Mets. And I don't just mean that his ability to go from looking like Aquaman to Clark Kent in the snap of a finger. What I mean is Manaea's stuff is really solid. Like, this is a guy that 2 years ago with the San Diego Padres, where you thought, okay, his starting days weren't just done, but how much longer is he going to be in the league? Like, that's how much he kind of fell flat on his face. Then he went to Driveline and worked more on his mechanics, got more velo on that fastball that topped out on 96 today, lots of swing and misses, to get a lefty that can strike out guys at a good clip. That would not only be huge for Manaea, but that would be equally, if not more huge here for the New York Metropolitans. To utilize the fastball up high and away, especially, or up high and in, and then that sweeper in your back pocket. I mean, Manaea's arsenal is now quickly becoming one of my favorites here. And this is all we've been wanting for us Mets fans. Not only just a lefty in a rotation, but a lefty that can get quality swing and miss. 6 Ks tonight, allowed 1 earned run, 4 hits in 5 innings, 1 walk. How you doing? Where you been? Where you going? Manaea, what an absolute beauty he was today. Again, utilizing the fastball so well. Love what I saw there with the sweeper. He's just someone that I really think is going to surprise some people this year in both a starter and at times reliever role where the Mets need him to eat some quality innings for them. But in the desperation and a desperate need for starting pitching, which is the New York Metropolitans right now, Sean Manaea, who for many teams would be your number 5 starter, not even cracking your rotation, now has a tall task at least to begin the 2024 calendar season for the New York Metropolitans here. And it was a nice outing indeed against, albeit a lesser lineup against the St. Louis Cardinals today. So I'm not going to, jump for joy and say, oh my goodness, Sean Manaea is the best thing since sliced bread, because it was a split squad game for them. There was no Arenado, there was no Goldie, etc. But at the same time, Nate Lavender carved these guys up all spring long. So I don't know really how much it matters if you're playing Team A or Team B. Either way, they're swinging and missing the St. Louis Cardinals way. Am I right? So now let's talk a bit about this game and what stood out outside of Sean Manaea. And actually, before I do that, I do want to briefly talk to you all about some cuts we saw earlier today. This was not only we saw with Yomer Sanchez, we saw with Kyle Crick, we also saw it with 2 names that might have surprised you to a degree if you're paying attention. Yaxel Urias, who has been awesome all spring long, didn't even allow a run if I'm not mistaken. He's a guy that if he clears can hopefully start the year in AAA for the Mets and arm for them if he stays in the organization. Again, very sharp sprain, but the Mets just have too many very impressive bullpen arms so far this spring that don't have minor league options at all either. So they have to make do with what they got currently, and that's why tough decisions have to be made. But Rios, and then the big one, Trace Thompson. Trace Thompson was tearing the cover off the ball. You'd think he's Clay out there splashing these threes, but more like doubles and home runs with a well over 300 average. He looked fantastic all spring, but unfortunately, unlike his brother, he just doesn't have the same stats. He's not an MLB regular. He's an MLB caliber player for sure, and is a regular on a lesser club, but for a Mets team that currently has the infield and outfield depth that they have constructed, they do not need Trace Thompson to start the year for them, but is absolutely a guy that they will consider calling up right away if they deal with ailments, especially to their outfield, because we all want to see Drew Gilbert, our top prospect, called up, but you also don't want to rush the kid. You want to make sure there's balance, and that's why Trace Thompson, Ben Gamels, these are types that are really you want in AAA, as long as they don't opt for free agency still, which is possible depending on their contract status. But more than anything, you want to have MLB caliber players available so that way you don't need to rush the kids up. And when you bring the kids up, it's because it is the proper time for them, right? Anthony, thank you so much for the donation. He says, great member of 11 months. Love what Ramirez has shown out the pen. I agree. Johan Ramirez with another fine outing for the Mets today. And before we get into more on the offense, we can just hone in actually more on the pitching side of things, because the offense was not great today. The Mets had 5 hits to the Cardinals 5, expected batting average 228 for those that even care about that in spring. But I really want to break down a little bit more on McNeil, what we saw today, and then ultimately Brett Baty's ability to lift the ball, which was awesome. Mark Vientos, and what I loved about his lining single, and then you saw production from Alonso, Alvarez, both offensively and defensively. Sounds like a day that ends in Y. Extend the effing man already, Stearns. Thank you. I digress. Let's get into more. Jay, thank you so much for the $5 holla. Appreciate that a lot, brother. Really does mean a lot. Kevin with the $5 holla too says, I think we're going to win a lot of close games this spring. Nice game today. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I think the Mets are going to win some close games all season long. You just got to hope that they're buyers by the trade deadline. I certainly believe that as a possibility, if not a true reality. And hopefully we find ourselves in a position where we're buying then and pushing for playoffs down the stretch where it matters most. It won't be easy with all the teams in the NL competing this year, but still, when there's a will, there's a way. And hopefully, again, not opposed to a JD Martinez, but I'm done crying about it, saying that it needs to happen. They know it needs to happen. Their decision to do it is up to them or not. And I'll leave it at that for now until we hear another rumor for me to discuss, inevitably. But let's talk briefly about the pitching, right? Take a look at the pitching with me, all you beautiful people. Sean Manaea on the bump today, as we saw, 4 hits, 1 earned run, 1 walk, 6 Ks, 3.09 ERA. Jorge Lopez comes in, allows 1 hit because it was a little up high, caught a little bit more of the plate than he wanted there. Jorge Lopez, flamethrower, nasty breaking stuff. He's looking for a bounce back here. This is a 2022 All-Star with the Baltimore Orioles. Bounced around with multiple teams this past season, including going back to Baltimore, where he did find some success before the end of the season. But still, Jorge Lopez is someone that I think is going to be one of many sneaky bullpen options thanks to David Stearns this offseason, because there's a difference between, say, buying low on guys because they're coming off of down years, when also understanding the true value of relievers and knowing that a lot of them are Jekyll and Hyde on a year-by-year basis. A lot of this is calculated, obviously. That's what David Stearns is known for. But it also just takes the average fan to do the eye test when you evaluate a lot of relievers in the free agent markets. They'll have a great season, bad season, solid season, bad season, good season, decent season, great season, bad season. Like, you see this roller coaster with a lot of guys, and based on certain decisions that Stearns has made, you can tell that it goes in hand with, knowing the rhythm in which things are going to trend upward, understanding the Mets pitching lab, thanks to Jeremy Hefner and all their newfound analytics over the past year or two, and everything in between. So when evaluating Jorge Lopez, I am very excited about him and the type of impact he'll have on the Mets this season, because again, this is another guy that touches high 90s, if not triple digits on the gun. You know how many times the Mets threw a baseball past like 95 last year from their bullpen? Not very often. 100, 0, right? I know flamethrowing isn't a key difference maker in all situations, but in the case of a Mets team that was too much of a soft tosser last year, it is vital to have this nice balance, especially guys in the case of Lopez, who again has the flamethrowing fastball, but can give you the sharp breaking ball too while he's at it. So Jorge Lopez, been very happy with what we've seen from him thus far. It's ridiculous that they're not just signed this guy. Are you referring to JD Martinez? They need to sign one more guy. DJ Stewart stinks, and the Korean guy is terrible. Chi-Man Choi isn't terrible. He gets a bad rap. He's a very good defensive first baseman, lifts the ball well, and has a great eye at the plate. Chi-Man Choi, I'm also telling you guys right now, as not DJ Stewart. Speaking of DJ Stewart, though, this goes in hand. Carlos Mendoza said today how they're still internally debating for that last bench spot. He already mentioned how Wendell's a lock, basically, Tyrone Taylor, etc. It's going to be Chi-Man Choi. I don't know why we're still having this discussion. It's been Chi-Man Choi. It's going to be Chi-Man Choi. Unless DJ Stewart goes out and has like the best spring games phenomenal until the regular season, it's Chi-Man Choi's job to lose right now. His ability to back up Pete Alonso comfortably as a backup first baseman and get Pete reps at DH at times, and also his ability to drive and lift the ball like what we saw with Brett Baty today. And when he's right, has a very good eye at the plate. This is not a Chi-Man Choi that hits the ball soft either. It's one of the harder hitters in all Major League Baseball. Had an absolutely putrid year last year, dealt with a boatload of injuries. Again, as a bench option, this is in many ways an upgraded version of Daniel Vogelbach, and someone that is not afraid to take his bat off the shoulders. That's another thing. And you got the infectious personality. And this is not a slight on DJ Stewart, but the Mets are actually in more need, you could argue, for a backup infielder in Chi-Man Choi's position than a fifth outfielder, which would be DJ Stewart, who's pretty much more of a standalone DH. He's not a guy that you're going to want consistently out there in the corner outfield, and I stand by that. But regardless, again, it's a fascinating one to watch, and you do have to wonder how much will the Mets continue to ponder the likes of a JD Martinez or elsewhere. It's going to be a fascinating one to follow again as the regular season begins March 28th for the New York Metropolitans. But when does the regular season actually begin for baseball as a whole? That's this Wednesday, and that's why we're about to hop into a great discussion with our amazing sponsor here at BetUS.
BetUS, America's favorite sportsbook and casino. Live betting and racebook. We're celebrating 30 years with a historic offer. A 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits. Plus 10% gambler's insurance. Get started today. BetUS, where the game begins.
Shout out BetUS as always, folks. And as you guys know, they're safe, secure, and reliable with all your sports betting needs. And give me 1 second, everybody, because I got to make sure you guys don't be looking at the login. That's no fun. So let's go down now to our sports bets, because there's one in particular I want to emphasize with you all. And of course I lost it because the damn thing logged me out. But let's get into it here. It is regarding the first slate of games officially beginning this Wednesday. South Korea, we got, Padres, Dodgers beginning the regular season. It's kind of crazy how they're going to have regular season games. They're going to come back, and then they're going to play a couple more spring games before they continue the regular season games. It's bizarre. But as we see here, we got Dodgers, Padres. This is going to be an awesome one against so many guys making their debuts with their new teams. Of course, not only with Shohei, with so many other pieces. Tyler Glass now will begin the starting game 1 there. And while the Dodgers are an easy favorite there, out -180, -1.5 on the spread, I'm going Padres. It's the beginning of the year. Ha-Seong Kim, I love the connection. He's been raking in those early games. I think he's going to rake in that 2-game series against the Dodgers. I love the Padres to not at least, I think they're at least going to hit on the spread here. If they're not going to win, I think they're going to keep the first game close. Watch they get the doors blown open. I will say this, I have been 4 for 4 in my last bets here with BetUS, so if that doesn't count for something, I don't know what does, right? Last 2 Knicks games I've covered as well on the spread, on the money line, especially last night. Knicks hit absolutely massive against the Warriors. So again, for my sports bettors that are safe, secure, and responsible with everything that you're doing sports betting wise, you want to get in on the action. We're going to be doing awesome, unique WardyNYM parlays throughout the regular season too for our Mets games. I'll break down our post-game shows. Make sure you get in on the action by clicking the link down below. Sign up today with 125% bonus for your first 3 deposits. But I'm taking the Padres spread here. Again, it's early season. Of course, this thing's going to exit me out. Regardless, I'm going to put 30 down on the minus 110. I hope you guys do too. I'm loving that spread there for the Padres. It's so early. It's so early in the season that nothing is a certainty. Even for a lot of bottom feeder teams, now is the time. But as we head back now into the main slide, just fair warning everybody, my intro will run for a hot second. So if it gets a little loud for a second, I apologize, but I will take it down in literally 1 minute. Okay, there we go. Apologies about that, guys, and shout out BetUS, as always, for all your sports betting needs. But now let's get back into this one because I want to emphasize a bit on the offense. And it starts with Brett Batty, as I mentioned today, because as we looked at the offense as a whole today, it was led off by Brandon Nimmo. We had Francisco Lindor in the 2-hole, Pete Alonso in the 3-hole today. Batting fourth, Jeff McNeil. Lots of controversy we heard today. I will share my further thoughts on Jeff McNeil batting cleanup. Starling Marte in the 5th spot, Francisco Lindor 6th. We see Brett Batty 7th, Marky V 8th, Harrison Bader 9th. That's what we saw there. And again, the bullpen, as we saw earlier, from Manaea, Lopez, Diekman, Yohan Ramirez looked fantastic. Yohan Ramirez is making it really, really tough for the Mets to say, no, you can't crack this bullpen. What an awesome pickup for the Mets for literally a bag of effing baseballs this offseason with the Chicago White Sox. You got to love to see that. But as we take a look at Brett Batty for a minute, again, he was able to lift and drive the ball today. That was absolutely huge. It was his 2nd home run this spring. Yes, Batty, as we know, has been underwhelming throughout his professional career to this point, at least at the major league level, and trying to lift the ball. He's struggled so mightily. He's been a ground ball machine left and right if he's not swinging right through pitches. Batty, however, again, has been sneaky good that we've seen thus far in spring. Again, a 244 average with a 726 OPS, but that doesn't tell the whole story. Again, since the month started here in March, he's been an over 300 average hitter. He's been on base at a higher clip. OPS, same ways. So Brett Batty, while of course there's a lot of uncertainty with him and how he's going to look this season, we just want to see what he has with as many reps as possible because there's no one directly competing for him at the third base spot. I do not like the idea of bringing in a filler option to have him compete in that spot. This is Brett Batty's job once again to lose, but I hope that he's able to really not only get his mentality straight, which we know is something I struggle with throughout the 2023 season, but again, just try to keep things loose and easy. The glove, when it's right, has been perfectly sharp. He's made some really nice diving catches we've seen this spring too. We know he's had some hiccups every now and then as well, so making sure that he's not overthinking defensively there. And offensively, again, I don't hate the swing mechanics. I know that some people don't love them. I personally am not a hater of the swing mechanics of Brett Batty at all. It really just comes down to, again, the ability to continue to lift the ball and to catch up to MLB caliber pitching. This is something that he struggled with mightily, especially the heater at the MLB level. Breaking balls as well, very swing and miss that we've seen with him. It's like one pitcher, it's nothing with Brett that we've seen, but we all know the tools are there, so hopefully this is the year that we can finally see it put together and he can live up to either his Fangraph projections, if not better. Hopefully better, because Fangraphs currently has him right around 250 average, 14, 15 home runs, 45 to 50 RBI range, a sub 800 OPS. Again, not a terrible year by any stretch, but you would, of course, want to see more there from your former first-round pick, who was deemed by many at the time as well when the Mets acquired him, and really up until his first call-up as the most polished hitter in the Mets farm. That's another thing to keep in mind, too, when evaluating Brett. He's someone that, to this point, you've been a little underwhelmed as things have gone to this level, knowing that he was the most polished guy on paper, but that just goes to show how much you buy into early player projections, the same way that everyone thought that Francisco Alvarez was going to be this huge defensive liability, and now he's already one of the best defensive and true all-around catchers in Major League Baseball. And that's not a crazy statement by any stretch. That isn't a homer statement on my end either. So that is what I'll leave you with regarding that. And as we talk about Francisco Alvarez for a minute, everybody, Francisco Alvarez, what an absolute beauty. Was able to throw out a runner today. Was able to essentially throw out two, threw out one runner. He got to Lindor. Lindor tossed it back to him to get the runner out at first. Then the second time was, again, making the beautiful throw. One hop there to second base, gets the tag. Francisco Alvarez, if I'm not mistaken, has thrown out at least 8 runners already this spring. I don't know why you would even fathom the idea of trying to run on him at this point, and yet teams continue to do exactly that. By all means, we'll eat that up for breakfast. Alvy's going to do his thing. His El Troll, as he has tatted right here, is the effing best for a reason. Take out the effing. I just had to put that in there because I'm a schmuck and I love doing stuff like that. But Francisco Alvarez, who, as I mentioned in the BetUS odds, and I will bring them up tomorrow, just place the bet with them too, guys. Over under season home runs. Guess what they have him at? 22.5. He had 25 last year and didn't even start the season in the majors. What are we doing here? 22.5 at -120. Make sure you guys hammer that, and by clicking the link down below too with our great friends at BetUS. I do see some comments I definitely want to address from my viewers live watching on YouTube, on Twitter. Thank you all so much for being here. Make sure to smash that like button, that follow button. Really does mean a lot. And drop your thoughts down below on the New York Metropolitans and how you feel about how they performed thus far this spring, as we have not spring training but the regular season now right around the corner. Things to be excited about for sure. And before I get into it, just want to also emphasize, again, we saw Francisco Alvarez have himself an RBI single today. Brett Batty 1 for 3 with the homer. Mark Vientos with 1 single, but that was, yes, 107 miles per hour. Jeff McNeil making his spring debut. And actually, before I get to your comments, I do got to talk about McNeil because I said I would do that. McNeil today, again, looking very sharp on an 0-2 count. His first at bat, worked 11 pitches, and he was looking sharp. Again, that was vintage Jeff McNeil's ability to get on base the best way he knows how. Now, there was good debates back and forth in favor and against McNeil and cleanup, and personally, I'm more opposed to it. I know my mans Mark and James at Mets Up are very much for it. I'm not on that wavelength yet, and here's why. McNeil, one, was batting fourth today because Mendoza said himself he just wants him to get a lot of reps out there. That was the main reason for it. He wants to have him get as many at-bats as possible today while he was going to be in the game. As we know, as we get into the season, McNeil is not someone that's expected to be batting cleanup consistently for them. But again, they put out this line for a reason because it's something that they're pondering and considering. So, pro to Jeff McNeil batting cleanup. It allows Pete Alonso to be in your 3 spot. Pete Alonso needs to make sure he gets as many at-bats as anybody every single game, especially in a walk year. It's important. Why is this a con potentially? Okay, because you have little to no power protection for Pete Alonso there. He's going to get walked more, and the people saying, oh, okay, why is that a problem? You're getting another guy on base for a great contact here in Jeff McNeil. The problem is that this is Pete effing Alonso and not just some schmuck above him that doesn't give you much production when he is hitting, when he is seeing pitches. Pete Alonso is one of the best power hitters, if not the best, in Major League Baseball. No one that is a Mets fan wants to see this man being walked left and right for his entire walk year. I can give a rat's ass if he has a 400 OBP if he doesn't even get an opportunity to give us 40 bombs this season. That'll drive everyone nuts, including myself. So no thank you in regards to that. Okay, well, now we know Jeff McNeil. Again, this is a guy that normally, when he's right at his best, is a 300 high contact hitter that is very strong with runners in scoring position that we've seen over the years. While that's true, the also potential con is that he's a first pitch swinger a lot of the times. I will give him credit. He wasn't first pitch swinging in every situation today. That was nice to see. That was appealing, especially because he didn't first pitch swing when he had bases loaded and was this close to a grand slam. So I want to give a lot of credit where credit's due. McNeil did that at bat well. It just couldn't get out there. If there was enough wind going to right, that ball would have been out of there for sure, like we've seen recently this spring. So that was a solid one. But the point I'm trying to make is more often than not, we know he's a first pitch swinger, and he's someone that has struggled consistently in those RBI situations to drive them in. That is why I would love to see more power protection like a Francisco Alvarez. I don't think there's any reason that Alvarez needs to be sitting 5 or 6 consistently to start the year. I think that's a foolish notion. You have a generational power hitting catcher right there to provide as much offense as possible. And in today's game, we know how this Mets team is. When they're up early and often, they have great success. When they're down early and often, they don't have success, which is the case with a lot of MLB teams. So now you have to ask yourself, does it make more sense that Francisco Alvarez, who he knows a lock to hit 30, if not 40 plus bombs this year, north of 90, 100 RBIs? Again, these things are inevitably going to happen. Why not give one of your best bats in your lap as many looks as possible? Have him in the 4 spot increases that likelihood, 1. And 2, that power protection, you're going to have Pete Alonso see more pitches than he's accustomed to seeing. Pete Alonso is also the best hitter in Major League Baseball on driving baseballs that are out of the zone. Just imagine what it could be like if there's more pressure on the opposing starting pitcher's shoulders by having someone like a Francisco Alvarez right afterwards. Yes, you sacrifice potentially getting the heart to the bottom of that lineup, but you have to go through that 1 through 4, and that 1 through 4 could easily be some of the best in Major League Baseball. From there, you work with, maybe you should consider signing a JD Martinez. It would make a life a lot easier when looking at a certainty in that regard. JD Martinez as your fifth. I mean, need I say more? Like, that's where I stand in regards to Francisco Alvarez and Jeff McNeil and where they should be batting. I'm not one of those people that's overly stingy, though. Like, I'm not going to go crying every day if the lineup isn't exactly how I want it, but it is something that I will make note of at times, especially if it goes in hand with the impact of the Mets game, whether they win or lose. You know, if that especially is impacted because, say, Pete Alonso didn't get enough at-bats or Francisco Alvarez didn't get enough opportunities, the guys that you know are the biggest power hitters in your lineup and the guys that will impact your offense more than anyone else, not named Francisco Lindor this year, yeah, it's going to grind my gears if you don't give them every opportunity imaginable to succeed. So putting those two together, that's why I feel the way that I do. But hey, if Jeff McNeil starts batting cleanup this season and he starts raking and he's providing consistent production in those runners and scoring position spots, more than just singles, hopefully he can go gap to gap a little bit, opposite field. Let's go back. Let's get away from the pulling ways a little bit from 2023. Sign me the hell up. I'm not opposed to that either. I'm just basing this on what we've seen at this point. And what we've seen at this point does not suggest Jeff McNeil being the go-to guy in that position to start the year. Something to experiment with, sure, but not something that should be anything close to a certainty. Forget about Alvarez batting fifth. He strikes out too much for a fifth batter. He needs to be in fourth spot. He needs to be with Alonso. I just think it makes too much sense for it to be just the Bash Bros. You know what I mean? Like, we don't even know that taste of what it's like to have back-to-back guys in your order consistently that you know are locks for 30, 40, potentially even 50 home runs. Not just for Alonso, for both of them. Alvarez is 100% a batter that's going to reach the 40-plus home run plateau in his career. Will he be able to get to the 50 range? I know that might be a steep ask, but especially in that 40 range, I do not think is out of realm possibility. This is Salvador Perez 2.0 when we're looking at power right now, and he's doing it at such a young effing age. I can only imagine where Alvarez is going to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now. It's going to be a human highlight reel. It really is. How you doing, Bobby G? How you doing, Mr. Nobody? Let's see. It had nothing to do with the lineup, just about. You know, I said that earlier. Yes, Mr. Nobody. I made note of that, and I hope that's the case. I was speaking in terms because there was a far outcry today with a lot of fans that, one, saw today's lineup and expect that to be the everyday lineup, which it won't be because that'll be ever-changing, especially with who's starting the outfield. But two, also want to make note because, again, I do see pros and cons to having McNeil in that spot. Right now, the cons just outweigh the pros for me at the moment. Let's see. Extend Alvarez already. I agree. Shout out to you, James. Great member. Let's see. Jay with another $5. Appreciate you, brother. He says he leads catchers in spring training. I know it's all Mets, but Snell the Giants. Yeah, I know. Yeah, Snell the Giants. That's okay, too, though. Like, the only bummer about Snell the Giants for us Mets fans is that it increases the Giants' likelihood of cracking playoffs, and that will more than likely not be from winning the NL West. It'll be from the wild card. So the wild card that's incredibly difficult as is, with the Padres, Diamondbacks, and Giants all being wild card caliber teams this year on paper. And then, oh yeah, you have to deal with teams like the Chicago Cubs, the Milwaukee Brewers, who, even though the Brewers are, I'm expecting to decline this year, are still going to be a fringe playoff team, even post-deadline if they sell. They're still going to be like looming. They're going to be Tampa Bay Rays, where even when the Rays don't do well, they're still like fringe, and they're in that mix. The Cincinnati Reds are a playoff caliber team this year for sure, in my opinion. The Pittsburgh Pirates are going to be nipping at the heels. Even if they don't get to the point of being a playoff team, they are definitely in the step of a right direction this year and how they're going to be producing. And then you have the Chicago Cubs too. So, oh yeah, then for us in the NL West, not NL West, NL East, Phillies, Mets, Braves, Marlins. I don't see how they'd make playoffs this year with their early elements to their rotation and their inability to spend, instead sell this offseason. But they were a team that surprised everyone last year too, so you can't completely write them off at the moment either. Yeah, a lot of competition, a lot of significant competition, and that's why you can make rightful arguments how adding one of a JD Martinez or a Jordan Montgomery can be that X factor, that difference maker for you, and really making or breaking your ability to crack playoffs. And maybe not having to be as desperate by the trade deadline as a buyer. Just some food for thought. Good news about Snell Giants as the Yankees suck. That's fine. You always kill me with that one. You guys are cracking me up. But guys and gals, before we wrap things up, before we get out of here, I want to make sure I hit on everything, all the key takeaways from today's game. As I mentioned again, the Mets won by a final score of 3-1. We saw the 2 runs there in the second by the Amazons. They would tack on 1 more there in the 7th. And also want to make sure I didn't miss anything from my notes here. I don't believe I did. No, we're good. Vientos impressive with that 107 mile per hour single earlier today too. Alvarez looking great defensively and offensively per usual. And wow, we're doing pretty awesome there on Twitter too. Just for this doing it last minute. Currently at 350 concurrent viewers on Twitter right now. On YouTube right now, we're at 150 at the moment. Appreciate all the viewership. Thank you guys so much. And again, if you guys would like to see me both live on these platforms going forward, make sure to let me know. I can gladly make that happen. But of course, want to make sure that my YouTube viewers know what's up and know that you guys are always appreciated. So thank you guys all so much as always for the endless support. Make sure to let me know your key takeaways from these Mets games down below in the comments, especially for my viewers on replay, whether it's on Twitter or of course they're on YouTube. And stay tuned as we have a lot of content that'll be coming. Ultimately, the regular season. Get ready, folks. We're going to have shows every single day. Multi-shows on almost an everyday basis throughout the normal week. Weekends will vary weekend to weekend. We have new segments coming, new hosts coming. We got a lot of awesome stuff brewing, guys. So thank you